You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Contrary to popular belief, I can admit when I'm wrong. Some of y'all think that don't ever happen. It's just that I'm rarely ever wrong. Shut up. I'm kidding. But I was wrong about Jayden Daniels. No. I was not wrong about Jayden Daniels being the starter. Been telling y'all that for 2 years, all y'all Nussbus people. Respect to the Nussbus. Hope he's awesome next year. But y'all know where I stood on that. But I was wrong about Jayden Daniels' Heisman candidacy. When LSU lost to Alabama, T-Bob and I fired up whiskey and wine, and one of the first things that I did was I went and checked the DraftKings Sportsbook app to see what Daniels' odds were. And he was off the board. They literally did not have odds listed for him. So, said on the show, LSU, look, let's clear the deck. LSU's not going to win the national championship. They're not going to go to the playoff. They can't win the SEC, can't win the West. Daniels' Heisman odds are gone. Thought that was it. How could you overcome 3 losses? And then Jayden Daniels went out against Florida and did something we have literally never seen before in the history of college football, had never seen before in the history of college football, and that's throw for over 350 yards and run for over 200 yards in the same game. And just like that, Daniels' odds skyrocketed. After that game, he was up to 4th. And as the weekend went along and into next week, he was up to 2nd. Because everybody looked at the day he had against Florida and marveled at it. And a lot of the national narrative around Jayden Daniels started to grow. And then I was wrong about something else. Because I said, look, Jayden stated his case. He's had his biggest stage. You got Georgia State coming up. And then you're going to play Texas A&M at 11 in the morning opposite Michigan, Ohio State, when everybody's going to be watching that game. So Jayden's not going to have another stage. So really, the hay is in the barn as far as what Jayden can do. Now you just sit back and hope that Bo Nix falters. Yep. Was wrong there too. You see, I suppose when someone continues achieving supernatural feats, people will notice, regardless of what time of day the game is played or against whom the game is played. Y'all, Jayden Daniels, we have completely run out of adjectives. But after doing something against Florida that had literally never been done before in the history of college football, 350 passing, 200 rushing in the same game, his encore performance was to do something that had only been done once before in the history of the SEC, and that was only done by literally the greatest quarterback season we have ever seen in the history of this sport. That was Joe Burrow in 2019, and that is accounting for 8 touchdowns in a game. In the long storied history of the Southeastern Conference, there are now 2 players ever to account for 8 touchdowns in a game. Joe Burrow in the Peach Bowl against Oklahoma in 2019, and Jayden Daniels on Saturday night. 509 total yards, 6 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. And as a result, Jayden Daniels is now the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. By the way, Jayden Daniels is now the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy after Bo Nix threw for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's how incredible what Jayden Daniels did on Saturday night was. That the collective nation looked at Bo Nix going on the road in a conference game and throwing for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns and went, yeah, it's not really that impressive. Think about what I just said. DraftKings has Jayden minus 125. Caesars has Jayden minus 125. FanDuel has Jayden minus 125. Action Network has Jayden minus 127. Jayden Daniels is the consensus betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. and I want to be really clear, Bo Nix and Michael Penix are great college football players having fantastic seasons. Michael Penix led the Power 5 last year in passing yardage. He's leading the Power 5 right now in passing yardage. Bo Nix is just behind Jayden in touchdowns and on a 10-1 football team whose only loss was on the road against the aforementioned Michael Penix in Washington. And they're probably on a collision course for a rematch in the Pac-12 championship game. Those two guys are awesome. And in any year would be completely and utterly, totally worthy Heisman Trophy winners. They are worthy of consideration and discussion. And that's why there are people, a lot of voters, that are going to vote for them. It's not like this is a landslide right now that Jayden's running away, but he is distancing himself despite playing Georgia State. But when you're Bo Nix or Michael Penix, the unfortunate part for them this season is they just happen to be doing it in a season where you have a guy doing things never before seen or seldom ever seen, like the game he had against Florida, following it up with the 8 touchdowns against Georgia State. Do you realize that Jayden Daniels is now only the second player in the history of the Southeastern Conference to throw for 3,500 yards in a season and rush for 1,000 yards in a season? The only other player ever to do that had a nickname, Johnny Football. And oh, by the way, he won the Heisman in that season. Do you remember what it was like watching Johnny Manziel in 2012? Do you remember? That's what it's like for other people watching Jayden Daniels right now. Like, he did what? He threw for how many? He ran for that? He did 8 touchdowns? That's what it's like for other people watching Jayden right now. That's why the choice has become really clear to most of the college football loving world. So here's what has to happen. You got 2 weeks left. 1 week in the regular season and championship Saturday. Jayden Daniels needs to hit his averages against Texas A&M. He needs to throw for 300 yards and run for 100 yards. He's got to basically put up his averages. If Jayden Daniels does that, he has stated his case in the most emphatic way possible. Now, LSU's got to win that game as well. You can forgive a 3-loss quarterback. We've seen that. And you know the list: Tim Tebow, RG3, Lamar Jackson. We've seen it. What we haven't seen is the 4-loss quarterback. So you got to go win Saturday. And Jayden has to stat compile, which I have no doubt he'll do because it's what he's literally done every game the entire season. There's no defense that's able to completely shut him down. So Jayden will get his, and hopefully LSU wins the game. That's one box you have to check for him to win the Heisman Trophy. The other is you do need Bo Nix to turn into Bad Bo from the Auburn days, at least once in the next 2 weeks. Because here's the bugaboo for Jayden Daniels. If Bo Nix goes off against Oregon State in the Civil War this week, and then next week, when Jayden Daniels is sitting at home and Bo Nix goes off against Washington in the Pac-12 championship game and leads his team to that title, he will very likely flip those odds. Now, we saw Oregon State on Saturday handcuff Michael Penix, who leads the nation in passing. Oregon State held Michael Penix to 13 of 28 for $162, 2 touchdowns. So Oregon State is totally capable. Now, that was in the rain at Reser Stadium. This is going to be at Autzen Stadium. But Oregon State's capable. Jayden Daniels has to go off, and you got to hope that Bo Nix slips a bit one of the next 2 weeks. If Nix goes off against Oregon State and then avenges the loss against Washington, the odds likely flip back in his favor. But then again, I've been wrong before about the Heisman and Jayden's odds. Not about Jayden Daniels. I've been telling you that for 2 years. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.